Built on stone, sweat, and silence, the human cost behind the Great Wall of China. The first thing most visitors notice about the Great Wall of China is its beauty. It rises along mist-covered mountains, curves across rugged ridgelines, and fades into distant horizons like a giant stone dragon. Standing atop its battlements, it feels timeless, as if it emerged naturally from the landscape itself. For centuries, it has been admired as one of humanity's greatest achievements, a symbol of endurance, ingenuity, and national identity. Yet behind those weathered stones lies another story, one that is less visible but no less important. The Great Wall was built to protect a civilization, but it demanded immense sacrifices from the very people it was meant to defend. Millions of laborers, peasants, soldiers, and prisoners endured brutal conditions. Families were torn apart, communities strained, and countless lives lost. To some, the wall meant safety. To others, it meant suffering. Beyond the frontier, it symbolized something else entirely: division. The Great Wall is not just a story of architecture. It is a story of ambition and fear, innovation and hardship, preservation and sacrifice. A wall born from fear. The Great Wall was never a single structure. Long before China unified, rival states built defensive walls to guard against each other and against nomadic raids. These early fortifications date back as far as the 7th century BC. Everything changed in 221 BC, when Qin Shi Huang unified China and became its first emperor. Seeking to protect his empire from northern nomadic groups such as the Xiongnu, he ordered existing walls to be linked and expanded. This decision set in motion one of the largest construction projects the world had ever seen. For Qin Shi Huang, the wall was more than defense. It was a symbol of authority and unity, marking the boundary between the settled agricultural world and the steppe beyond. But the cost was enormous. Hundreds of thousands of laborers were conscripted and sent north under harsh conditions. Historical records describe severe punishments, grueling labor, and high death rates. Much of the early wall was built quickly using rammed earth, a practical but relatively primitive method. Over a millennium and a half later, during the Ming Dynasty, from 1368 to 1644, the wall was transformed into the iconic structure seen today. Facing persistent threats from Mongol forces, Ming rulers invested heavily in fortifications rather than offensive campaigns. The Ming Wall became an integrated defense system: stone walls, watchtowers, fortresses, and signal stations working together, building the impossible. Modern visitors often assume the Great Wall required advanced machinery. It did not. The wall was built almost entirely by human labor. Every brick and stone was quarried, transported, and positioned by hand. Workers hauled materials up steep mountains using ropes, sledges, and simple tools. In some areas, animals like donkeys carried supplies along narrow trails. The logistical challenge was immense. Builders solved it with ingenuity. Rather than transporting materials long distances, they used what was locally available. In deserts, they packed sand and gravel. On grasslands, they used earth and reeds. In mountains, they quarried stone nearby. This meant the Great Wall was not one uniform structure, but many walls adapted to their environments. One of its most remarkable innovations came during the Ming Dynasty: mortar made with sticky rice. By mixing sticky rice soup with lime, builders created a compound of exceptional strength and durability. Modern studies have shown that this mortar remains one of the strongest pre-modern construction materials ever developed. The wall was not only a feat of brute force, it was a triumph of engineering. Yet behind every innovation stood countless workers, whose names have long since faded from history. The long road to suffering. For those who built it, the Great Wall was not a marvel, it was a hardship. Most laborers were farmers drafted into forced service. They left behind families and traveled long distances to remote construction sites, where conditions were harsh. Food was scarce. Medical care was minimal. Workers faced freezing winters in the mountains and extreme heat in the deserts. They carried heavy loads every day, and injuries and disease were common. Many died from exhaustion or illness. For families at home, uncertainty was constant. A man sent to work on the wall might be gone for years or never return. Entire villages lost members to imperial projects. For these communities, the wall was never merely a distant structure on a faraway frontier. It was a source of worry, sacrifice, and grief that reached into everyday life. The view from the steps. The story of the Great Wall depends on where you stand. To Chinese emperors, it was a shield protecting farms, cities, and trade routes. But beyond the wall lived nomadic peoples such as the Xiongnu, Turks, Khitans, Jurchens, and Mongols. Their lives differed from those of settled farmers. They relied on herds and seasonal movement rather than agriculture. Their wealth lay in livestock and mobility. For generations, trade connected these two worlds. Nomads exchanged horses, wool, and livestock for Chinese goods like silk and grain. The relationship was complex, sometimes cooperative, sometimes hostile, but always interconnected. The wall changed that dynamic. To many nomads, it represented restriction. It limited movement, controlled trade, and marked exclusion. What was protection for one side could feel like a barrier to the other. In some cases, these restrictions increased tensions. When access to trade diminished, economic hardship grew, sometimes contributing to conflict. The wall divided worlds, but it could not separate them completely. Trade, conflict, and cultural exchange continued to tie the two sides together for centuries. The world's longest cemetery? A common claim describes the Great Wall as the world's longest cemetery, suggesting that countless workers are buried within its structure. The reality is more nuanced. There is no doubt that many workers died during construction. Archaeological evidence and historical records confirm high mortality rates. However, there is little evidence that bodies were intentionally built into the wall itself. Most were likely buried near construction sites. The legend endures because the suffering was real and widespread. Families across China lost loved ones who never returned. Whether or not bodies lie within the wall, its history is inseparable from the human cost behind it. The families left behind. While men labored on the wall, life at home became more difficult. Women managed farms alone. Children took on adult responsibilities. Elderly family members depended on already strained households. Losing a worker during planting or harvest season could bring serious consequences. Fields went untended, yields declined, and hunger followed. Some children grew up knowing their fathers only through stories. Others never saw them again. For many families, the cost of the wall was measured, not in bricks or stones, but in years of absence. For many families, the Great Wall's burden was felt not in distant mountains, but in their daily struggle to survive. The price of protection. The cost of the Great Wall extended beyond human lives. Building and maintaining such a vast system required enormous financial resources. Workers needed food, soldiers needed supplies, and damaged sections required ongoing repairs. Much of this burden fell on ordinary people through increased taxes. Farmers often gave up larger portions of their harvests, and local governments diverted resources to frontier defense. For many families, this strain pushed already fragile livelihoods closer to collapse and deepened the hardships of daily life. Some historians suggest that the financial demands of maintaining the wall contributed to broader political instability. A project intended to strengthen the state could, at times, weaken it. Environmental consequences. The environmental impact of the wall was also significant. The brick sections built during the Ming Dynasty required vast quantities of fuel for kilns. Entire hillsides were stripped of timber. To feed the fires needed to bake millions of bricks. In some regions, this large-scale deforestation contributed to soil erosion and long-term ecological changes. The wall also acted as a physical boundary for wildlife. Over time, it influenced migration patterns and the distribution of species, functioning as an early form of ecological fragmentation. In this way, the wall left its mark not only on human history, but on the natural world as well. The forgotten soldiers. While laborers built the wall, soldiers lived upon it. Stationed in remote watchtowers and fortresses, they faced long periods of isolation. Many never saw battle. Instead, they battled cold, hunger, and loneliness. Supply shortages were common and communication with home was limited. Some soldiers spent years in these conditions, guarding against threats that might never come. For them, the wall was not a symbol of glory. It was a daily test of endurance. Smoke, fire, and communication. The Great Wall was more than a barrier, it was a communication system. Watchtowers allowed signals to be passed quickly across great distances. Smoke signals during the day and fires at night warned of approaching enemies. Messages could travel hundreds of miles in a matter of hours. Long before telegraphs or radios, the wall helped an empire stay connected across vast distances. In this way, the Great Wall functioned as an ancient information network, allowing rapid response to threats. Its strength lay not only in its stone, but in its ability to connect people across enormous distances. A wall that could not stop every enemy. Despite its scale and sophistication, the Great Wall never guaranteed complete safety. Yet history would reveal a painful irony. Despite centuries of labor and immense financial sacrifice, the wall could not permanently stop every threat. Mongol armies eventually conquered China and established the Yuan dynasty. Centuries later, Manchu forces crossed the frontier and founded the Qing dynasty. The wall could delay danger but not eliminate it. Its limitations reveal a deeper truth. No wall, no matter how large, can secure a civilization by itself. A nation's strength ultimately depends on its people, its leadership, and its ability to adapt to changing times. The legacy of two walls. The Great Wall tells two stories. One is a story of achievement. It represents remarkable engineering, organization, and determination. Few structures in human history match its scale or ambition. The other is a story of sacrifice. It is the story of the workers who built it, the families who waited, the soldiers who guarded its towers, and the landscapes altered in its construction. It is also the story of those beyond the wall, who saw it as a barrier rather than protection. The Great Wall was built to separate worlds, yet those worlds remain deeply connected. Today, visitors see a magnificent structure stretching across the landscape. Historians see the rise and fall of empires, but beneath the stone lies something more enduring: the voices of those who lived, labored, and sacrificed. Their names may be forgotten, yet their lives remain woven into every watchtower, every battlement, and every winding mile of the Great Wall. The wall endures, and so do their stories.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Rugged. Definition: rough, uneven, and not smooth, usually describing land or mountains. Example: the hikers walked across the rugged mountains. 2. Ridgeline. Definition: the long, narrow top of a hill or mountain. Example: we could see a small tower on the ridgeline. 3. Battlement. Definition: the top part of a castle or wall where soldiers stood for protection. Example: the guards watched from the battlements of the old wall. 4. Ingenuity. Definition: the ability to solve problems in a clever way. Example: the builders used ingenuity to move heavy stones. 5. Weathered. Definition: changed or worn by wind, rain, sun, and time. Example: the weathered stones showed their great age. 6. Brutal. Definition: very harsh, painful, or cruel. Example: the workers faced brutal conditions during construction. 7. Strained. Definition: under pressure or stress. Example: the long drought left many families strained. 8. Nomadic. Definition: moving from place to place instead of living in one permanent home. Example: the nomadic tribes traveled with their animals. 9. Fortifications. Definition: walls, towers, and other structures built for defense. Example: the city built fortifications to protect itself from attack. 10. Set in motion. Definition: to start something that will continue or develop. Example: the new law set in motion many important changes. 11. Enormous. Definition: very large. Example: the project required an enormous amount of work. 12. Conscripted. Definition: forced by the government to work or serve. Example: many farmers were conscripted to build the wall. 13. Rammed earth. Definition: a building material made by pressing layers of soil tightly together. Example: parts of the early wall were built with rammed earth. 14. Persistent. Definition: continuing for a long time and not stopping easily. Example: the kingdom faced persistent attacks from its enemies. 15. Quarried. Definition: taken from the ground by cutting stone from a large rock area. Example: the stone was quarried from nearby mountains. 16. Positioned. Definition: placed in a particular spot. Example: the workers carefully positioned each brick. 17. Hauled. Definition: pulled or carried something heavy. Example: the laborers hauled stones up the mountain. 18. Steep. Definition: rising or falling sharply. Example: the road became very steep near the top of the hill. 19. Sledge. Definition: a flat vehicle used to move heavy loads over the ground. Example: workers used a sledge to move large stones. 20. Logistical. Definition: related to organizing people, materials, and transportation. Example: building the wall created many logistical problems. 21. Immense. Definition: extremely large. Example: the wall required an immense amount of labor. 22. Marvel. Definition: something that causes wonder because it is very impressive. Example: many people consider the Great Wall a marvel of engineering. 23. Dynamic. Definition: changing or involving many different forces or activities. Example: trade created a dynamic relationship between the two groups. 24. Exclusion. Definition: the act of keeping someone or something out. Example: some people saw the wall as a symbol of exclusion. 25. Nuanced. Definition: having small but important differences. Example: the historian gave a nuanced explanation of the event. 26. Mortality. Definition: death or the number of deaths in a group of people. Example: the harsh conditions led to high mortality among workers. 27. Instability. Definition: a condition of uncertainty or lack of balance. Example: economic problems caused political instability. 28. Kiln. Definition: a special oven used to bake bricks, pottery, or other materials. Example: the bricks were hardened in a large kiln. 29. Deforestation. Definition: the cutting down of large numbers of trees. Example: deforestation changed the landscape around the villages. 30. Erosion. Definition: the gradual wearing away of soil or rock by wind or water. Example: heavy rain caused erosion on the hillside.
Comprehension questions. 1. Why is the Great Wall of China admired by people around the world? Answer: it is admired because of its enormous size, impressive engineering, and its importance as a symbol of Chinese history and culture. 2. What was the original purpose of the Great Wall? Answer: the wall was built to protect China from attacks and raids by northern nomadic groups. 3. Who ordered the first major expansion and connection of the walls in 221 BC? Answer: Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, ordered the walls to be linked and expanded. 4. What materials were used to build the early sections of the wall? Answer: early sections were mainly built with rammed earth, which was made by tightly packing layers of soil, gravel, and clay. 5. How did the Ming Dynasty improve the Great Wall? Answer: the Ming Dynasty rebuilt much of the wall, using stone and brick, and added watchtowers, fortresses, and signal stations. 6. Why is the Great Wall considered an engineering achievement? Answer: builders used clever methods to move materials, adapted construction techniques to different environments, and developed strong mortar made from sticky rice and lime. 7. What difficulties did the laborers face while building the wall? Answer: they faced hard physical labor, food shortages, disease, harsh weather, injuries, and long separations from their families. 8. How did the construction of the wall affect families back home? Answer: families lost workers for long periods, farms were harder to manage, and many women, children, and elderly people had to take on extra responsibilities. 9. How did nomadic peoples view the Great Wall differently from Chinese rulers? Answer: Chinese rulers saw it as protection, while many nomadic peoples saw it as a barrier that limited movement and trade. 10. Why is the Great Wall sometimes called the world's longest cemetery? Answer: many workers died during its construction, although there is little evidence that their bodies were actually built into the wall itself. 11. How did maintaining the Great Wall affect ordinary people economically? Answer: many people paid higher taxes, and local governments had to spend large amounts of money and resources on defense and repairs. 12. What environmental effects did the wall's construction have? Answer: large numbers of trees were cut down to fuel brick-making kilns, leading to deforestation, soil erosion, and ecological changes. 13. What challenges did soldiers stationed on the wall experience? Answer: they often faced loneliness, cold weather, food shortages, and long periods away from their families. 14. How did the Great Wall serve as a communication system? Answer: watchtowers used smoke signals during the day and fire signals at night to send warnings quickly across long distances. 15. Why does the article say the wall could not stop every enemy? Answer: although it slowed invasions, Mongol and Manchu forces eventually conquered China and established their own dynasties. 16. What is the deeper lesson of the Great Wall according to the article? Answer: the article suggests that walls alone cannot protect a civilization. A nation's strength depends on its people, leadership, and ability to adapt. 17. What are the two stories told by the Great Wall? Answer: one story is about human achievement, engineering, and determination. The other is about sacrifice, hardship, and the people whose lives were affected by its construction. 18. Why does the author say the worlds on both sides of the wall remain connected? Answer: despite the wall, trade, conflict, and cultural exchange continued between China and the nomadic peoples for centuries. 19. What does the article mean by the phrase, "the wall could delay danger but not eliminate it"? Answer: it means the wall could slow or reduce attacks, but it could not completely prevent invasions or solve all of China's problems. 20. What message does the author leave readers with at the end of the article? Answer: the author reminds readers that while the Great Wall is a remarkable monument, it also represents the lives, sacrifices, and stories of countless people whose contributions should not be forgotten.